Now, General Secretary of the People's National Convention, PNC, Atiq Mohammed, has treated his suspension from the party with disdain. He has therefore indicated he will go to his office at the party's headquarters today. The PNC, at an extraordinary National Executive Council meeting on Saturday, said Mr. Mohammed had misconducted himself, violating the party's constitution. Now, a vote of no confidence was reportedly passed on him. Atiq Mohammed has joined us in the studio. Mr. Mohammed, welcome.
Thank you very much, my brother.
Now, as General Secretary, you are in charge of putting together the agenda of any NEC meeting.
Precisely.
What was on the agenda of that NEC meeting?
Thank you, and let me say good morning, I suppose, still morning, to your viewers. We had a 3-item agenda. The first had to do with an annual work plan I had put together for 2017. Even though I concede time is gone, but at least we still need to do some activities before the year comes to an end. So I put together an annual work plan. The second item on the agenda, which of course, the first we needed inputs from members of NEC and all that. The second had to do with a strategic plan. The party has been more like an entity on a cruise control. You don't seem to have a guide that tells you at this point you need to be here, at that point you need to be there. So we keep recording declining fortunes in every election. So I said, look, it's important we have a strategic plan. That's what serious institutions do. And then the third item was recent happenings in the party. These were the items that constituted the agenda. So when the meeting began, I was asked by the national chairman to take the meeting through what the annual work plan entailed, which I did. We have decided to undertake a number of activities before the end of the year. But for want of time, we had to skip the second item, which was the strategic plan, because it's an item which we could defer to another administrative organ of the party called Standing Committee. So the decision was that it could even be raised at Standing Committee, so let's skip that. And then come to the next, which was the most crucial for the day. And it had to do with the recent happenings within the party. And the national chairman took...
What recent happenings were these?
Exactly. The national chairman took the opportunity to explain to members of the meeting what that meant. And we were specific about it. He was talking about the appointment and the acceptance of same by a flag bearer of the position of ambassador at large. So after he finished introducing the topic, it's just normal that he calls upon the leader, the person who is at the center of this, to give us his perspectives. What really were the issues leading to his appointment, the timing, and what prevented him from informing the party prior to his acceptance and what have you. Quite strangely, and it still boggles my mind, when he was given the opportunity to do that, he got up and said he would not do so, that he was not going to explain to us how that happened and when it happened, and that he rather felt that the party fared badly in the last election and that the meeting should assess 3 individuals whom he feels are the leaders of the party, and these leaders were himself, the national chairman, and myself, the general secretary. So he made his submission, made all kinds of references to things he felt in the last election were not helpful. So it was only fair that, having mentioned my name as being one of the leaders and one of those he feels should be on the table for scrutiny, I was given the opportunity to say what I had to say. So I said, in the first place, this meeting does not have the competence to undertake the task he's imposing or inviting us to undertake. The second point is that...
Why?
NEC is not clothed with the power to make determinations on the performance of executives. There is only one organ that has that capacity, and it's called the National Delegates Congress. It's the highest decision-making body. So when we vote for executives, whether they perform or not, at the next Congress, delegates will decide. They will, of course, they will scrutinize, assess, and then pass a judgment on your performance as an executive.
So you made that point.
Very clearly, and I insisted it should be on record. Then I went ahead to say that this is diversionary. This is not why we are here. If it were assessing ourselves, we could as well just sit back and say, look, when we go, let's call it an emergency or let's go for an early Congress. But this issue was, the agenda was specific to discuss Dr. Edward Mohammed's acceptance of an appointment without recourse to the party. So you cannot having been invited to explain your side of the story, turn everything around and say, look, I want the meeting rather to assess people, an undertaking that the meeting is incompetent to handle. So I made that point very clearly that the agenda was specific. You cannot divert what the agenda is about.
And then what happened?
And when that happened, I went ahead to make the point that if the insistence is that we should alter the agenda and discuss that which pleases Edward Mahama, then I am sorry, I cannot continue to be a part of this meeting, and that I would excuse myself from the meeting. So I did so, and I insisted it should be on record that I left because he had invited this meeting to engage in an act that is, I mean, at best can be described as ultra-virus, because that undertaking is well beyond the powers of NEC. And my phone is off. I wanted to quote for you the specific portions of our law that speak about the functions and powers of NEC. There is nowhere in that constitution that talks about the capacity of NEC to do such assessment.
You made that point. Are you the only one who left that meeting?
Not at all. So after I left, the national chairman too, feeling there had been a subtle attack on the agenda and an attempt to drown the very issue for which we were all there, said, look, if you want to assess me, if all of a sudden this meeting is about assessing me, I cannot sit in my own court and be my own judge. So I would also excuse this meeting and walk away.
So he had no problems with the agenda?
He did. I mean, the original agenda was the agenda everybody was aware of. But the alteration, he said this cannot happen. But the man kept insisting this one, and it appears it was. We had to even take a 2-minute break. So when we came back, he said, if this is what the leader wants to do, let it be on record that he did not sit in that meeting. And left, and then the first vice chairman took over. So when we got, I only got home to be told that,
this decision has been taken.
A decision had been taken.
But who were those at the meeting?
Well, when I left, I cannot speak to those who stayed. But I do know some, I'm told some other regional executives left, and some stayed and were not active participants in the process. But all I know when I go home was that I had been no, the first thing was that there had been a passage of no confidence on me. Mm-hmm. Another alien concept to the Constitution. There is nowhere in the Constitution that speaks about vote of no confidence, because the framers know that it is only Congress that can do that. And vote of no confidence in the sense of the PNC's Constitution is to go and vote you out at Congress. And later, the other communication that came was that I had been sanctioned, I had been suspended indefinitely for misconduct and misbehavior towards the appointment of the leader. The point is, we never even got to discuss that issue. So how could that be the basis for somebody to take a decision on me? He refused a discussion on that issue. Then a day after, somebody claiming he's the director of communication of the party. We don't even have such a title in our party.
Okay.
Article 57, clause 1 of our party speaks only of communication secretary. Okay. We don't have communication director. And I'm told he has authored something claiming they have.
Now, speaking of the communication director of the party, Emmanuel Wilson, he has been speaking with Joy News and he has been defending the decision that was taken that Mr. Mohammed is referring to. Let's hear him.
Not working efficiently as a general secretary. As the head of administration, the administration of the party is virtually non-existent. And so the National Executive Council, in their wisdom, realized that they cannot keep him on as a general secretary between now and the next Congress. Now,
was there an urgent need to suspend him?
It is more urgent than ever, because we do not have enough time as a political party called the PNC. There are so many things we need to do. Indeed, unlike our colleague parties like the NDC and the NPP, who have got to a very large extent strong structures compared to that of the PNC, we still have a whole lot of work to do between now and 2020.
How did Atik fare in the 2016 general election as the general secretary?
One thing that quickly came up, which was an argument against him, was in relation to the 2016 election, had to do with our disqualification as a political party. All of us will attest to it, that administration The head of it is the General Secretary. Now, filling of presidential nomination forms must be directly supervised by the General Secretary. And indeed, it wasn't so much surprising when one person quickly made reference to the process that led to our disqualification. In the afternoon of Thursday, when all of us were so busy and so hot moving up and down, the General Secretary was sitting comfortably on one of your sister stations, Asempa FM, and was just doing a newspaper review. And the argument came out that it is clear that he did not know his priorities. He could not set his priorities right. And so we were not really surprised that at the end of the day, we were disqualified.
So that's what your communications director is saying. And what would you say to this?
I don't know him as a communications director. I only know him as a secretary of communication who reports to me. And, it's very interesting, the things he has raised. And I find them very laughable. In the first instance, and I made a point very clearly at the meeting that the only person who sabotaged our campaign in the last election was Dr. Edward Mahama and people like this. Can you imagine this young man went to a constituency where a national chairman was contesting and was campaigning for his opponent. He was campaigning for Alban Sumana Bagbin against Bernard. And there are pictorial evidence, even on my phone as we speak. And such a person sits on stands before the cameras and says, oh, I was inefficient. In any case, when we were disqualified, how did we get back? Who did the work? You see, there are some things I don't want to share.
But you see,
it's very important to state that.
You've already made statements here that you didn't have a work plan for this year. The party was in cruise control. Yeah. He has also added that the administration is non-existent. Aren't these things your purview as a general secretary to ensure that these things are happening?
No. It's not my job to create an annual work plan. It is the job of the National Executive Committee, and that is what they should be doing. But in the absence of that,
but this is a committee that you will call meetings or you set the agenda for.
I don't. I call the meetings. The agenda is set by the entire executive. But the point I'm making is, even in the 2016 elections, you need free space to work. To the extent that the secretary in the office has been told by Dr. Mahama not to give my letters that come to me. How do you expect the general secretary to work in such an environment? And to the extent that everything within the party, if the National Women's Organizer does not bless it, it will not fly. Several pieces of advice given to Dr. Edon Mahama, because the women's organizer said it shouldn't work, it did not work. Look, when we were about launching our manifesto, I presented a comprehensive program. He shut that program down because, and these are things that I find very laughable. So let's even grant that I am the most inefficient general secretary. If you are inefficient, is it National Executive Committee that means to say, oh, okay, you are inefficient, so we are suspending
okay, you've made that point earlier. So what is your next line of action?
Oh, the next line is that I'm continuing to work as the General Secretary of the party until such a time that I decide I am tired and I no longer will do that, or we go to Congress and there's a change. But in the meantime, let's take this quickly. We've been speaking to some people, asking them a few questions, what they know about the People's National Convention. It speaks to some of the issues that have been raised against Mr. Mohammed. Let's hear them.
PNC is a political party, and the full meaning is People's National Convention.
PNC is People's National Congress.
PNC, I know, in Ghana is a political party which stands for People's National Congress.
People's National Convention Party. Yeah, that's what I know. It's a party in Ghana. It's a political party. Yeah. Headed by Edward Mahama, and then who again? Yeah, it's Edward Mahama.
All right, PNC. Not too sure about it, but I'm sure it could be this political abbreviation song. But I'm not too sure about it though. Yeah.
It's a new patriotic Congress, and it's about political issues.
PNC is a political party in Ghana. The full name of PNC is People's National Congress.
Interesting one. So, Mr. Mohammed, what is your next line of action in 30 seconds?
Well, for me, I think that what has happened is important for us. It is giving us an opportunity to correct a lot of misnomers in the party. I have intentions, beyond continuing my job, to write to the Council of Elders, the legal committee of the party, and to also write through the national chairman for another NEC to be convened, so that this miscommunication and misnomers within the party will be halted. To avoid the possibility of somebody taking the party to court, we've been victims of court litigation over the over the period, and I think litigation really hasn't helped this party. So that we avoid people taking the party to ransom in future, we need to correct some of these things. And these are the things in the coming days I would wish to do.
Right, thank you very much, Atek Mohammed, for your time. He's the General Secretary of the PNC. He says he's still the General Secretary. There are some who are saying he is not. We'll be following up with this story in later bulletins.